Welcome to the learners. Today we are going to discuss an important subject called the consumer rights, that is provided under Block 3 Unit 10 of our certificate course offered by the Indira Gandhi National Open University. Consumer rights plays very important and significance in our day-to-day life. And before we go into the details of the consumer rights, we should also understand what is the reason behind the evolution of these consumer rights. The reason or the evolution, the basis for evolution is the consumers were being exploited since ages when the trade took place about 1500 years or so. Now these traders in the since ages, they were practicing certain unacceptable practices which led to the exploitation of the consumers. These practices by and large include largely adulteration of foodstuffs, that is adding in particles which are not fit for consumption. So that I'll give example later. Then another major practices adopted and noticed was charging of excessive price. The traders used to charge more price than the actual price of the commodity or the service, the other services to be hired. Then the third major exploitation noticed was fabrication the weights and measures. There used to be large scale underselling than the prescribed quantity of the commodities concerned. You must have seen in several films, in all the films, that the trade is selling weights, underweight products and also. This is another major practices. Even now in village side these things are being practiced. Then sale of forbidden goods, that even some of the goods prohibited for sale, for declared as not fit for human consumption, are being sold also in the black markets and all. So these are the major practices adopted for traders which led to the consumer exploitation. Then when the consumer exploited, then there is a need for the protection of the rights of the consumer. This is how the rights have been evolved over the ages from the United Nations onwards, that has been percolated down to the concerned nations concerned. As you all know it very well, the Consumer Protection Act in India for the first time was enacted in the year 1986. And as per the 1986, the consumer rights were codified in the law as a policy, that the consumer rights have to be followed as a policy of the government. However, in the year 2019 Act, these rights have been converted into as a rights and put it in the definition of the consumers. In other words, the consumer rights were not included in the definition of the consumer and definitions under the Consumer Protection Act 1986, but it's in the keeping with the realizing the demerits involved in such a practice followed. Now the 2019 Act realized that there is a need to bring it separately under the definition clause, so that the people get a right and to get this, if the rights are violated, they have the remedial recourse before the consumer forums or the consumer commissions or the consumer council or the consumer authority. These are the authorities provided in the Consumer Protection Act is concerned for protection of consumer rights. Now let us move into the actual subject, consumer rights. What are those consumer rights provided under our Consumer Protection Act 2019 is concerned? There are 6 consumer rights provided under the 2019 Act is concerned. They are right to safety, right to be informed, right to choose, right to be heard, the right to seek redressal from the authorities concerned or the machinery provided, then right to consumer awareness and education. These are the 6 broader rights covered under the Consumer Protection Act 2019 and specifically provided under the definition clause, that is the section 2. Now let us take one right after that separately. Now let us move into what is the importance, the right to safety, that is the consumer right of the right to safety. What is the right to safety means? Right to safety, it refers to the right to be protected against marketing of goods and hiring of services which are hazardous to life and property. So in this first and foremost right is that the right is in the consumer has the right to protect themselves against sale of goods which are hazardous to life and property. Now what are this then this that means the goods which we consume or we purchase, that should be hazardous free, and it should not lead to loss of life or property is concerned. Then the goods purchased and the service availed not only to meet immediate needs but also fulfill long-term interest. See, the next thing is that what the goods we purchase today now and the service we hire today, it is not only to meet the immediate interest, it is also for the future long-term interest of the, that meaning thereby the product that we purchase, it should last long for a long time. It should not be say only for the short-term benefits or so. Then the consumer should also insist on the quality of the product as well as the guarantee of the product and services before making the purchase of the goods or availing the services. Before availing the services, before the purchase of the goods, the consumer should ensure that the quality of the product is as per the prescribed standards by the concerned standards prescribing authorities concerned, and also the goods are free from all that hazardous character or the nature is concerned. The consumers should also purchase the quality products, preferably which are branded like the branded goods like Agmark or the ISI standards and all. See, Agmark is the standarding authority which certifies the quality of the agriculture related products. Similarly, ISI also, these are the brands that certifying authorities to ensure the quality of the product is concerned. Now, the next important thing about the safety is concerned. Now, what is the hazardous life? Manufacturing defects causes loss to life, health and property of the consumer in various ways. You see, whenever we purchase the goods, that it should not cause loss or damage to the health of was concerned. Even today, what we are not very sure the goods available in the market are really free from any defects or deficiency, or is there any unwanted foreign particles there or not. Even we see in the advertisement that even the products we available, it's colored. The traders, they adopt several unethical practices to make the commodity very attractive, very colorful. At the same time, these things are not good for the health of the human beings concerned. Now, what are the manufacturing defects? The manufacturing defects may be in very ways. Even there can be a manufacturing defect in vehicles that we purchase, two-wheeler or four-wheeler or anything. If there is a manufacturing defect in the vehicles, then and with that manufacturing defect, if you drive the vehicle, it may cause even loss of life to the life of the person who drives the vehicle, who is traveling in the vehicle is concerned. So, any product with a manufacturing defect is definitely and likely to cause loss of life and all of the property is concerned. Then, for example, we have got several cases are there. Pressure cookers. The pressure cooker said no, when the manufacturing defect is there, then it can cause loss of busting while the cooking and all. It has happened, in several cases. So, when the pressure cooker go for a purchase the pressure cookers, whether you have to maintain whether it contains the heat as required as per the requirements, or is there any possibility of the busting of the pressure cookers when it is put into this purpose and all, that we have to ensure that and all. Gas cylinders again, when you go for a gas cylinders, if it is not handled properly, even it's very highly ticklish issue. If even the nuts and bolts are not properly tightened, then it can lead to the busting of the cylinders and all. In a very old case, in a village side now, gas cylinders are available in the rural and semi-urban areas also. In one village, the first time the gas cylinder service are made available. When the first cylinder came in, then all the children they assemble it together, see how it operates and all. And the person who came there, due to his inexperience to handle the gas cylinders operations, due to his own default and also defect in the cylinder burst and several people died. You see, because of that defect in the cylinder making and all, this type of loss of life also. Pressure cook also, several type of cases where the cookers, because of the manufacturing defect, it has busted, it has led to loss of life of several people and all. Likewise, electrical appliances, electrical appliances, if it is not short circuit, all those things are there, very many things are. So in this way, some of the examples were manufacturing vehicles also I said. So any product purchased with the manufacturing defect, that it should likely to cause loss or damage to the property is concerned. Therefore, the consumer has the right to demand, to make an inquiry, to find out whether the product is having all the safety features. If they find it on they have the right to know what all those things are. That is what the right to safety is very, very important. Then hazardous products. Because there are certain hazardous products, we even used for our own in the domestic purpose only, including the production under like pesticides is necessary for the agricultural production. But at the same time, excessive usage of the pesticides, that is likely to cause or damage to the products, and ultimately it is going to cause serious medical problems, all the health problems to the persons who are going to consume it. So therefore, that's what the certain the government of India has established certain authorities, prescribe for standards prescribing authorities concerned. So they have to certify, like AgMark I said, all agricultural products has to be certified the AgMark and all likewise. So they have to maintain the standards and all, pesticides. Then we also the paints and all we used for the domestic purpose and all. It also poisonous items are used or hazardous particles are used in the paints and the solvents also. If it is used in a higher proportion than the prescribed proportion, it is likely to cause loss or damage to the life is concerned. So these are the examples of the goods which are likely to cause loss or damage to the not only to the life and the property is concerned. So this I'm sure you will have understood what is the importance of the right to safety, how this right is important, and how we can take remedial measures if these rights are violated. And that will be, I will come to it a little later. Now, the next one is about the right to be informed. That is that as a consumer, we have the right to know about the quality, quantity, potency, purity, and standard price of the goods for the purpose of protecting the interests of the consumers and against unfair trade practices. I said exploitation of the consumer leads to unfair trade practices. So to arrest this unfair trade, what is unfair trade practice? Practice which is contrary to the fair trade practices provided under the various laws, rules and regulations. So therefore, we have the right to know what is the quantity of the commodity sold, what is the quality of the commodities sold, whether it is in conformity with the standards prescribed by the concerned the certifying authority or not, potency, purity, and the standard price, whether the price is as per the prescribed price or not. These are we should have the right to know these things are. That is why in the label of the commodities concerned, that there are certain essential informations to be furnished, printed. Not only printed, it will be printed in a readable form. In many of the cases, cases came to the court of law. One of the serious objection was that the matters printed in the label of the product sold, it is not legible, or it is just not possible for any average person with the average eyesight to read it and all. So it is printed in so smallest size, and even with a young person cannot also read it. So therefore the court said that whatever the matters printed in the label of the commodity sold, it should be not only legible, it should be readable, and it should be readable in the eyes of the common man. These are the things are. Now, what are the labels should contain? In the label, what is the quality of the commodity sold? That should be prescribed. Again, if you read it, those contents, all the quality standards are already they are provided, and the label is concerned very briefly. What is the percentage of all those ingredients and all, and the quantity, whether quantity is in kilos or it is in say millimeters, milligrams, and all those things have to be. In the case of the milk and milk product, it is about the milliliters is concerned. About the kg, it's about the wheats or the agricultural product, it's about the kg in grams only. So these type of what is the quantity has to be clearly specified in the label of the commodity, and what is the potency and the purity of the standard. And not only that, the price of the commodity fixed, that should be printed. Now, in addition to that, whether they should mention whether it is prices inclusive of taxes or exclusive of taxes. If inclusive of taxes, whether the local taxes included or not. So these are the details to be firm, so that the consumer has the right to know what is the correct price of it, inclusive of taxes or exclusive tax concern. And also that this survey, whether any unfair trade practices adopted by the trade, if these standards are not prescribed, printed in the label of the commodity sold, then it will definitely amount to unfair trade practices. Therefore, based on if any information is not furnished in the label on all these items, then that will definitely it amounts to unfair trade practice. Then we can initiate a proceedings against the concerned trader, seller, producer or manufacturers alleging there is a unfair trade practice against this concern. Then consumer is also to insist on getting the information about the product or the service before making a choice of the decision. No, the most important right is before we make a decision to purchase the commodity or to hire the services, we should be doubly sure and ensure from the trader or the service providers all the required information which will satisfy that the product is free from all defects and the service is free from all the deficient elements and all. So only after satisfying from the information gathered from the trader and the service provider, then only the consumer should come to the conclusion and to take a decision whether to go and purchase the goods or to hire the services or not. The reason is very simple. Once after the purchase is concerned, then you have no remedial measures. Only you have to go for it will take the litigation path only. If there is a manufacturing defect will come later after the purchase concern. But it is better to find out whether is there any defect is present in the commodity or not. This may be from some of the car manufacturing units. No, they sometimes the problem faced by the let us say vehicles. There sometimes comes a newspaper, a particular brand of the vehicle is having certain manufacturing, so advising the consumer not to go for it. So we should also be very careful. Consumer education, awareness, that we are going to see that right also separately. This all included in this concern. Then the right to be informed. Right will enable the consumer to act wisely and responsibly and also enable him to desist from falling. See, the consumer will adopt all unethical practices. The traders and the producer, manufacturer will try to attract the consumer. No, consumer is one group, but there are different type of sellers, traders. Everybody want to try to catch up get the share of the consumer in their market. So they will adopt all type of practices to attract the consumer. But we as the consumer should be very, very careful. We should not fall prey to the pressures exerted by the manufacturer adopting selling techniques. Sometimes misleading advertisements are also coming up. They show the misleading advertisement, making the people to understand this is a good product. But we have come across several product and this being advertised. If you regularly consume the particular product for 6 months, your weight will reduce drastically, or you will become very colorful and beautiful. Whether these things are really tested or not, we should not, simply based on the advertisement, that if you face of a particular product, facial items, for a particular period, you will become beautiful. No one can believe it. So therefore, however, the advertisements are being coming in the market. So we as a consumer should be very, very careful, and we should not fall prey to the such type of advertisements concern. This all talks about the consumer right to be informed about his concern. Then right to information, that is the right to know. Right to be informed, right to know is a very, very important right is concerned, that we have to see. The quality, quantity, purity, that we have seen it also. The right to choose, we have discussed about the quality. The quality standards should be prescribed by the concerned regulating authority as per the quality is concerned. As per the quantity should be in conformity with the provision of the Legal Metrology Act. And the purity again is the standards as prescribed under the relevant law and rules and regulations. That the purity on honey is concerned. Very recently, the Food and Standards and Standards Authority of India, they came out with the advertisement or the notification stating that the honey sold in the market is contains in foreign elements, and also they also issued the direction for examining for sent for this honey for the lab for testing, and also the National Consumer Protection Authority, they also said that they will extend all support and cooperation to find out whether the honey sold in the market are free from all the particles which are which will likely to cause health problem to the consumers are concerned. Likewise, so this is about the action is taken by our consumer protection authorities concerned. This is about then standard. There are various standards are prescribed. The standard should be as per the inclusive of the standard authority. And I told also the date of manufacture should be printed in the label, and also the date of expiry should also be printed, and what is the validity period. So all this information should find a place in this label is concerned. This is all about right to be informed. Then the next right is the right to choose. The right to choose, again the consumer, as we consumer, we have the right to choose of a particular commodity. That means there must be adequate commodity available in the market. For the things and all. Very often, some of the traders, they come together, they form a cartel, and they decide not to release all the branded in the market, even with the same brand. With they adopt unethical techniques to sell all those products which are not in a good condition. So with the view to clear that old stock, they don't allow the fresh commodity in the market, display in the market. Then the consumer has no other way but to purchase whatever the goods displayed in the stall only. So, but however, we as the consumers have the right to know and right to choose that what is the among that means the precondition for right to choose that the different variety of goods should be available in the shop. They should not hoard any such goods are concerned. Then for the variety, different varieties should be made available to the consumer is concerned, so that among the varieties available, the consumer in a position to select one out of the several products is concerned. Then that is what in the case of single seller, there are certain product where only single sell monopoly. Some refers to where is only one single, where there are few sellers are there, they are called the oligopoly, and the duopoly means where the two sellers are there. So in the case of monopoly, single seller, the right to be assured of satisfactory quality and services at a fair and reasonable prices. Even in the case of a monopolist, where there is a single seller, it is duty to ensure that to the satisfaction of the consumers that the quality of the goods sold and the services offered are available at a fair and reasonable prices. Also, the right to basic goods and services, even the right to be informed, right to choose, also available to the basic and essential commodities. We cannot say that the right to goods and services are not available to the basic and essential goods. Right to basic goods and services. Then this right can be better exercised in a competitive market where a variety of goods are available at competitive prices. So again, the right to choose is a very, very important right, which enables or makes the producer, seller, trader to make the goods, different variety of goods available to the consumer, so that he has the right to choose among the quality goods available. You should have the freedom and the right to choose the best quality and at the best affordable price within his purchasing capacity. All these things are very important. The goods may be available, quality goods may be available, but if it's a very high quality, depriving all the common man to purchase, that is also not good. So right to choose means the goods offered should be of a good quality and it should be at an affordable price. So all these things has to be ensured in the case of right to choose is concerned. Now, another important right is concerned, right to be heard. Right to be heard. That the consumer has a right to be, that his grievances should be heard, that or his their problems should be heard and addressed by the concerned authorities. So consumer has the interest, and the interest should be protected by the authorities concerned. Therefore, the authorities, there must be a mechanism to receive the interest or receive the importance of the consumer interest should be receive the proper attention by the policy making authorities. So consumer interest is one of the important right that is available to the consumer, and it should receive the required consideration at the appropriate forum. Which are the appropriate forum? It may be policy making forum. Government policy making bodies are there. So consumer voices should be heard. The consumer should be allowed to make their own representation, like whether it's a buyer's market or seller's market, or it's a trader's market, or it's about the product related things are there. Then the consumer interest should receive the due attention and consideration. Whenever even the trader, they should invite the consumers, or they should give a room for the consumers to express their own grievances, their own problem, even their own suggestions also. Then we have the various platforms, like consumer forums are there, even the consumer councils are there, consumer authorities are there, where the consumer the people affected consumer, even otherwise also, they can make their own representation, like banking services. The banks are these days the problems are being faced, where the banks are being closed also for various reasons. The depositors have been forced to not to withdraw their monies and all, where to raise the grievances. So these type of there should be a platform to raise the grievances affect the consumer, either before the concerned authorities concerned, or like Ministry of Finance or the Reserve Bank of India with respect to the banking services concerned. So wherever there is a platform, wherever there is a machinery is provided, this machinery should provide a scope for the affected consumers to raise their voices and grievances. Then consumers also, they should have the freedom to form non-political organizations, one primarily to protect their interest also. So right to be heard also includes right to form a non-political organization for the purpose of raising their voices and grievances. So this is another right to be heard. The next important right is the right to seek redressal. Right to seek redressal is very, very important, because as and when the consumers are exploited due to the practice of unfair trade practices, the worst affected person is a consumer. Therefore, the law is provided for the various settlement machinery about the consumer commission at the district level, state consumer commission at the state level, and the national consumer commission at the national level, about which a separate lecture is being arranged separately. So therefore, this much is sufficient to know that there is a provision made under the law for the settlement of consumers through these three various forums. In addition to that, the consumer can also raise their grievances against the Consumer Protection Authority and various other consumer protection councils also. With this we conclude the right to seek redressal concern. The next important right is the right to consumer education. Again, I elaborately dealt with the rights of the consumer education, that the consumer should educate himself or herself about the situation is concerned, about his rights, about his responsibilities, so that he is in a position to enjoy his rights in a very better manner. So right to adequate knowledge or skill of an informed consumer is very, very important for life. So consumers should know not only the rights, and they should exercise them on the basis of the real consumer protection could be achieved with the success only. So therefore, awareness of the consumer education, consumer awareness, knowledge about the consumer, acquirement of knowledge by the consumer, these things are very, very essential for the enjoyment the consumer right is education right is concerned. So with this, we conclude our discussion on the consumer rights. As I said, for further information and discussion, please refer to our units, and I mentioned already in the very beginning I have given the block number and the unit number. Go through our material. If it is supplied through offline, that is the printed copy is available with you, or else you come to our website and these materials are available on the website, so that you can read and understand in a better manner with the help of the additional information provided here. With this, we thank each and every one of you for listening to this discussion.